Welcome to Unscripted, a podcast with no script by design. We're not following a plan, and that's exactly the point. This show is about whatever's on the minds of your hosts, Larry Lannan and Duncan Giles. We'll dig into what's happening in the world, and just as importantly, what isn't making headlines this week. So, with that, let's get started. The conversation could go anywhere because we go wherever the microphones take us. Here's Larry Lannan and Duncan Giles. I'm Lannan, he's Giles, and this is Lannan and Giles Unscripted, and today is Halloween. It is October 31st in 2025, and Duncan Giles, welcome back.
Thanks, Larry. It's always good to be here. Hold on just a second. We can keep recording while I adjust my thing a little bit. I have to.
Duncan is having technical issues with his phone. He uses the phone. So it's taking him a little time to get started, but we'll let him.
There we go. Now I'm back.
Oh, wait a minute. I thought that is not a technical problem. This is a wardrobe malfunction. Captain America?
Happy Halloween, everybody.
I figured just showing myself is enough. I don't have to put a mask on, but oh my goodness. Well, happy Halloween to everyone. Isn't it nice that we are having our recording session on Halloween? And I have no excuse for forgetting my wife's birthday. I want to wish my lovely wife, Jane, a happy birthday. Let's just say that for many years, we've simply been celebrating the 39th, the anniversary of her 39th birthday, and just kind of leave it at that every year.
Happy 39th to Jane, and hopefully it doesn't get to a situation like it happened with my mom, because she would celebrate like her 39th birthday as well. And I said, it's getting kind of awkward when I'm starting to either get really close or be older than you are. There's some problems with this procedure.
Well, yes, and it doesn't last forever. The thing about my in-laws, they've always they would give me a check at my birthday, and once I turned 39, they would give me a check in the number of years, but they stopped 39. Even now, they still give me $39. He now it's my father-in-law has left. He will give me a $39 check on my birthday. It's just kind of a running joke in the family. But
nice.
Happy birthday to my lovely wife Jane. And let's talk. I want to do, and people, I apologize. My voice is not 100%. I've been battling a cold, but I think I can get through this. I always believe in updating stories we've talked about before, and I wanted to do a major update on the story about the nuns in Austria. Now, to remind people about this story, if you haven't heard it before, there are 3 elderly nuns whose convent closed. Now, their story, and they're sticking to it, is that the church had promised them they could stay in this convent and for as long as they lived. Church said, no, the convent's not a good place for you. There's not enough medical attention there. So we're sending you to what's called a care home in Austria, which we would call a nursing home or assisted living facility. So they got to the nursing home and absolutely hated it. So again, these are former teachers, nuns. So they, how should I put this, tapped into their local community, and their former students and a locksmith who they knew literally broke them out of the nursing home, and they went back to this convent. Well, the convent had been closed. It didn't have any water, electricity, or anything like that. But those nuns just refused to stay in that nursing home. So when they got back to their old convent where they wanted to stay, they, with the help again of their ties in the community, they were able to get at least partial restoration of electricity and water service to their old convent. Now, also, some medical professionals, again, they've got ties there as well, these nuns. They've been teachers for years in this community in Austria. have been checking up on them. So even though they don't have a health facility, the medical professionals have been coming in and checking on these elderly nuns. Now, the authorities in the church, the people of the archdiocese, they say, hey, nuns, this convent is not good for elderly people, particularly you. So now there's kind of an uneasy truce. The nuns have not been served any formal eviction notice, and the authorities, the police, said they have no plans to forcibly relocate them. So who wants to make a scene about that? And so far, it's got a lot of publicity. Obviously, it's getting publicity here and in Austria and all throughout Europe. And the interesting thing here is that they've become international celebrities. They're online. People are talking about them all the time. And they've gained tremendous support around the world. And I checked on it just a few days ago. And as best we can tell, Duncan, the nuns are still in their old convent with the support of their former students and their parents.
Well, I've got to say that you are probably the person that has reported the most on this story in the U.S., that's keeping us abreast of this. And those nuns should be happy that they're getting this kind of publicity over here in the States. But yeah, if they're able to have their former students, in seriousness, if they're able to have their former students come in, take care of their needs and things of that nature, and they're happy there, why not leave them there? And I think the police are doing the right thing, saying, we're not messing with this. We've got bigger things to do.
Bishops and cardinals, they'll do anything to avoid a controversy. And so that's where they've decided to just let it go because they would be seen as the bad people if they tried
Oh,
to.
yeah.
They
Yeah.
knew.
Who wants to? Yeah, we're forcibly going to evict some nuns. Yeah, that kind of thing
Nuns.
really works great in movies like Sister Act. I imagine it really play out well in real life.
So anyway, let's move on to some of our news stories that people probably have not seen in the news the past week. There are a couple of brothers in Britain, and they sort of make how should I put this, a goal of growing the biggest pumpkins that they can possibly grow. They've been doing this for 50 years. Well, now uh, this this uh, these two brothers have now broke a world record. We're back to the world records again. On October 28th, they revealed a pumpkin weighing 2,819 pounds and 4 ounces.
Was this certified by Guinness?
I didn't see Guinness on this. This is
Okay, well, how do we know it's a world record if it's not Guinness?
Well, it came from United Press International. I'm going to start citing sources. People think I'm making this stuff up. I'm not. This is United Press International that came up with this story, but they claim it's a world record. I didn't see Guinness listed there, but we'll call it the world record of pumpkin making. Can't imagine a pumpkin. Can you imagine carving a pumpkin that large?
No, I saw something on a reel a couple of days ago where I don't know if it was this pumpkin, but it was a 2,000-pound pumpkin that they apparently dropped on a car. I think it was like an AMC Gremlin, if that gives you an idea. And this pumpkin, I don't know how high it was dropped from, but totally, basically crushed the car. It hit right on top of the hood and just crushed the car.
Wait, do we still have AMC Gremlins on the road?
There's apparently one that was in some junkyard or something. I'm sure it's not running. For those of you who don't know what an AMC Gremlin is, you're lucky. Uh, they were not good cars.
My dad talked me into buying an AMC Pacer in the 1970s. Oh my
Oh, bad.
goodness. Which was the
He was
worst.
upset with you at the time.
He just didn't know what he was talking about. It was one of the worst decisions I ever made. They built it for a rotary engine, and the rotary engine never worked. So the engine they put in there never worked. So, and I learned that the hard way. Let's move on to our next story. This is not for the squeamish, so just to warn you on this one. This comes out of Bangkok, Thailand, from a new service called the Shepherd Express. A 51-year-old man, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, he's, again, Thai. He was arrested October 18th for performing penis enlargement procedures in the back seat of his vintage Toyota Corolla. Apparently, he learned this surgical procedure by watching social media videos and promoted his so-called service on TikTok. And the reason he was arrested, he has no medical license, Duncan.
So is he going to be appointed to a position in Health and Human Services here over in the U.S. soon?
That was my first thought. I think he's got to get out of jail in Thailand first. Can you
Well,
imagine?
I think that could probably be arranged. Yeah, I mean, it's just um, I've never been there, but from what I understand, Bangkok is a very interesting place for a lot of stuff like that, and basically anything you can imagine.
Well, again, a lot of people my age went to Vietnam, and they would come back. Some of them spent time in Thailand, and the only thing they ever told me is that almost anything goes in that country,
Yeah.
and I think that hasn't changed. Let me just give me a moment here.
Yeah, while you're getting a moment, I want to talk a little bit about Halloween and what we're going to be doing this year. It's a little bit different. Um, we live across the street from a football stadium, and the start of the Indiana State football playoffs is tonight. So we're hoping that doesn't interrupt our trick or treaters. But we've seen some things online, and so for trick or treating, we're going to be giving kids an option. And when I say kids, it could be teenage kids, little kids, things of that nature. I will be in my full dress as Captain America. Um, but we have not only candy, we've got some drink boxes. We're also going to have uh, potatoes, just regular potatoes, and bags of ramen. And so if the kids want to choose one of those instead of candy, they can. Because we've read and heard a lot about, if kids are given the option to have potatoes or something like ramen as opposed to candy, that could help, be a more filling meal or something of that nature. They just love it. And especially with what's going on with SNAP benefits and things of that nature, we thought it might be a good idea. So we're going to give it a try.
Well, we'll have to get some numbers from you to exactly what the reaction has been for the youngsters and see if how many people take you up on that and how many people figure out the secret identity of Captain America.
Well, that's the thing. It's been, in the movies, they pretty much show who he is. So there's not much secret. But what I really, really like, and this was especially, when Avengers Endgame was coming out and things of that nature, when the little kids who are dressed up, because when I say I'm dressed in my full Captain America regalia, I have the shield and everything. And so when the little kids see me, they just stop and look, and they're like telling their parents, "Oh, it's Captain America," And I tell the parents, "Yeah, I'm Captain America gone to seed. The secret super soldier serum is worn off in me." Um, but it's a thrill to see them, so excited and things of that nature. And our local police department loves to, when they're doing their patrols, slow patrols, they will yell out at me because it's become an annual thing where they yell at me, "Thanks for taking care of this part of the neighborhood, Captain America. We appreciate it." So it's just something to have fun with the kids. That's one of the things that I try to enjoy. A lot of Halloween, they want to scare people and all that. We're just trying to make sure that kids have a fun time, good time, and this year we're giving them some options.
Well, that's great, Duncan. And we'll have to get a full report next time we talk about all this. Let me move on with some. I'm not again. I'm into international stories. This story came from NDTV, a European news outlet. Duncan and I have two daughters, and both are married, so I know something about the cost of a wedding. Well, there's a French entrepreneur. I hope I pronounced his name right, Dagobert Renault, who funded most of his wedding by selling spots on his wedding tuxedo. He ended up with logos of 26 different startup companies embroidered on the suit and described the whole experience as a beautiful day with thanks to all of his sponsors. I guess I missed the boat on that one.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wonder if during the traditional toasts or things of that nature, he had to thank all the sponsors. We'd like to thank this company and this company and this company, and going down the list for helping defray some of the expenses here.
Might take a while to do 26 of them, but
Absolutely, but you've seen it in racing or things of that nature. Where I'd like to thank well, the Pennzoil, 14 different sponsors all at once.
I don't
So,
know if they
you can get a pretty good, rap, so to speak, quickly doing those.
I don't know if they still do this, but years ago I went up to see a hockey game in Fort Wayne, the Fort Wayne Comets, and at that time they would spend 15 minutes before, I'm talking about 50, I timed it, 15 minutes of the public address announcer reading commercials nonstop, one after the other. So I don't know if they use video now or if they do that, but that's a pretty extreme example of that.
Yeah, they got to do what they need to do to pay the bills. I
And
mean, that's
being,
unfortunate, but it's true.
well, as you well know, minor league sports are like that.
Yep.
Let's go to Spain. Associated Press had this story. Now, I used to work the police beat, and when I worked in radio news, and authorities are calling this a rather unusual theft because these thieves in Spain were busted for stealing, get this, 1,000 restaurant chairs. They broke into a restaurant and all they took were the chairs. 1,000 chairs. Must have been a pretty big restaurant. And the police, even though they've arrested these people, they still can't find out the motive. Why would people break into a restaurant and just steal the chairs? That's weird.
Very weird. Either they're event planners or planning to open their own restaurant and wanted to defray costs. I'm sitting there trying to think how long it would take to steal 1,000 chairs and how big of a truck you would need or trucks to put in. I mean, even if they're stackable, that's still a lot of chairs.
It just made no sense to me for the logistical reasons you mentioned. And just I mean, there's plenty of other things to steal in a
Yeah, and I
restaurant.
can't imagine the secondary market for chairs. Well, if you sell them for $10 a piece and get $10,000. But I mean, if this was a pretty publicized crime and you sit there and put it on, whatever their Spain's version of Craigslist is or something of that nature, and say, hey, we've 1,000 chairs for sale. Okay, yeah, let me buy some of those, and that would be the easiest police sting operation in history.
Well, yeah, you go to your fence and say, I've got a few things for you to sell.
Yeah,
I got 1,000 chairs.
that would I would imagine a fence would be going. I've fenced a lot of things in my time. I've never fenced that many chairs.
Oh my gosh. And finally, this is in the good old U.S. and came from an Apple podcast of all places. But there was a man who went around impersonating the rock musician Sammy Hagar, but he went too far. He was arrested for trying to set up a bank account in Sammy Hagar's name.
Oh, nice.
Why would you want to do that unless you actually had his money? I don't understand that.
And the thing is, in the immortal words of Dwight Schrute from The Office, identity theft is not a joke, Jim. If you know, you know, folks. And that's just hubris right there, of saying, okay, I've gotten away with it so far. Let me try and set up a bank account. Yeah, you can transfer this money out, Sammy Hagar. I'll go and play for your gig. Here's my account. I mean, I'm imagining that's what he's trying to do. Who knows?
One last thing here I want to talk about, and I remember I used to be a program director at a radio station. I would get all kinds of resumes, and you'd see these really nice, touched up pictures of people. Even though it was radio, they wanted to look nice, right? Well, AI has taken this thing to a whole new level. And there was a story I saw recently about Google Gemini, which is Google's version of artificial intelligence. And just the headshot, what you can do with somebody's headshot, you can completely change the background. You could be in a studio, an office. You could have the American flag behind you, like Duncan does today in our video version of our podcast. You can change your clothes. Maybe you've never worn a tie or a tuxedo in your life. You can put one on using Google Gemini. You can, of course, repolish and retouch. Boy, I could have used that in the old days. Um, and it's what I find is that what used to be just a little touch up or something you would do with some help from a photography expert. Now it became more high tech, and now it's totally high tech with AI. So you can make yourself look like somebody you really are not.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It changes totally. And I've got a real quick tuxedo funny story. That's sort of funny. Um, my sister, who looks just like me, tall, blonde, skinny, good looking, looks just like me, was the 1984 500 Festival Queen. And that's a huge deal here in Indianapolis at the time. And they had what was called the Queen's Ball. So, everybody dresses up in tuxes and things of that nature. Myself trying to be different, I decided to come in a tuxedo. Everybody else is in the traditional tuxedo. Oh no, not me. White tuxedo, red cummerbund and tie with tails. I definitely stood out, and probably not in a good way.
I was gonna say, I thought you were going to tell me you dressed up like the penguin.
No, that was I dressed up white tuxedo and tail, and God bless my uncle Ron, who was my late uncle Ron, awesome guy. Was his shirt for his tuxedo said Uncle Ron.
Yeah.
So, he wanted everybody to know he was the uncle of the 500 Festival Queen.
Yes,
Like,
your sister is a very beautiful lady. I've met her a couple of times, and
yeah, she's absolutely looks nothing like me. It was thank God for that for her.
oh my goodness. Well, I want to just turn serious for a moment because we really have a serious problem going on in America. Doing local news, my early barometer for trouble in the economy are in Indiana, township trustees. That's probably the lowest level of government. But in Indiana, the township trustees have the first line responsibility to handle poor relief. So I know a couple of our local uh, township trustees pretty well. When I see them and I ask them, what I've been hearing lately is that the alarm bells have been going off really for the last few weeks. The economy is starting to move in the wrong direction. Well, now we're again recording this October 31st. On November 1st, SNAP benefits, which we used to call food stamps, but it's the same thing, they're going to run out because of the government shutdown. Um, I don't think, Duncan, people understand that the poorest people in the United States are heading into a crisis where they're not going to have enough to eat. And I know that local food banks and other nonprofits are working hard to fill the gap, but that's a big gap to fill.
Yeah, it's almost like trying to bail out a boat where it's coming in. You've got a 1 gallon bucket and it's coming in at 20 gallons a minute. It's helping, but it's not going to solve the problem. And the sad thing is to me is they've made a conscious decision not to do this, and it's trying to pressure a political party to, bow to another political party. And the same thing with the ACA premium subsidies that have been in. You cannot punish people, especially that need it the most, that need the help the most, because you can't come to agreements or compromises. That's just so wrong. I know of federal employees right now who've been going without paychecks that are hitting up food banks, pantries, things of that nature, trying to look for, holding off having their mortgages or utility bills, something of that, held in abeyance while they're trying to do this. So, I mean, it's this problem needs to be solved ASAP, and we need to take care. This is the United States of America. I'm sitting here as Captain America. I got an American flag behind me. Our job is to take care of our folks, and that includes from the richest down to the poorest. And we need to take care of those folks and get this resolved.
I agree with you, and I do see that the only hope we had of fixing this or ending it is when people, American people, start feeling it. They're going to start feeling it now. They're already feeling it at airports. I
Yeah.
understand many U.S. senators wanted to get home yesterday and found out they couldn't. Now, part of it is bad weather in the East, but the fact that these air traffic controllers are not being paid has just made everything worse. And there had already been delays around the country based on that. So it's pretty clear to me that we've seen the hardships that federal employees go through. You and I have been through shutdowns before. I was fortunate; I was, able to weather the storm. But there are a lot of people who couldn't and had real hardships. So, where do you think we're going to find the solution to this, Duncan?
I think that the White House is going to have to get involved. I think there are going to have to be compromises, and they're going to have to be serious solutions. We can't just play games. We can't just placate a certain few donors. We have to, make sure that the American people, like I said, the American people are taken care of, and how that's going to get done, I'm not sure. Each side, from everything I've seen, is pretty dug in on their views. So there's going to have to be some more discussions, and I think as it goes on, it is going to get worse. The people are going to get more upset, like you said. Air travel is going to be slowing dramatically. It's already slowed some, but it's going to be slowing even more dramatically because these air traffic controllers are they're tired, they're understaffed, they can't handle what they need, so they're going to be cutting back air travel, especially during the holidays. Wow. And then you've got folks who don't have food, basically don't have food to eat because, even though they're working a job, they're not making more than minimum wage, and they need that to pay their rent, pay their utilities. They don't have much left over for food. So they count on the SNAP benefits. And, when I hear people say, well, all these people who get SNAP benefits, they're not working. No, the vast majority of people who collect these benefits are working. And they're just working at a poverty level for their wages, and they need these to help, basically exist. And so we're going to have to work hard, and the American people, like you said, are going to have to push their representatives and their senators to find a solution to this sooner rather than later.
I mean, yeah, people on SNAP are either working, they're disabled and can't work, or they're elderly. I mean, those are the SNAP. But this idea people are just being freeloading. I mean, it's very little. There's some of that, but really not very much, to be honest with you. Well, Duncan, you never know when people are going to consume a podcast. But on the day we record this, we have the World Series is wrapping up in Toronto. Unfortunately, your prediction didn't come true. You thought it would be the Dodgers in 6. It can only be Toronto in 6 now because now the Dodgers have to go to Toronto and win 2 games. One thing that surprised me is that the Dodgers pitching kind of fell apart at inopportune times. And, I was really surprised. Their defense didn't show me very much.
No, they're pitching, especially their back of the bullpen and things of that nature, has not been that great all year. They've tried to solve it. We're going to have a strong performance by Yamamoto tonight. Hopefully he can give us something like he did in game 2. Their bats have got to come awake. And, it's going to be extremely tough to win 2 in Toronto. It's possible, but I think it's very much an uphill battle.
Well, I just appreciate the fact you've all been watching and listening, and we will, if all goes well, be back next week. Hopefully, I'll have a better voice at that time and be over my little cold. You probably tell them I don't sound the way I usually do if you listen or watch this podcast or have for any length of time. So, Duncan Giles, have a great weekend and a great week. We'll be back next week with another edition of Lannan and Giles Unscripted. We have one ask for you as the audience. Like and subscribe to this podcast. We appreciate it. Duncan and Larry will be back soon with another episode. In the meantime, this is Unscripted.